Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video called How the US Ruined Bread. Wow, those are big words. Ruined bread. I think what is bread in the US is very different from what I think it's considered bread in other places. It's better, spoiler alert, is better in other places. So this is going to be quite interesting. Let's check it out and comment, like, and subscribe.
I love bread.
There is so much good bread in France.
Yes.
And although man
We're
does
famous
not
for it.
live by bread alone, without it a meal seems incomplete.
On every corner, there is a bakery that is pumping out delicious, fresh, well-made bread.
It's so fresh.
This is not easily available to me, and
It's crazy,
I want to
yeah.
know why. Why is it that the bread that I can get easily looks very, very different? Why is it that the US sucks at making bread? In fact, let me just show you what that looks like. Okay, wait, it's 12 hours earlier, still back in the US. I'm actually at a grocery store right now.
Are you gonna see what constitutes as bread there?
This is how a lot of us Americans get our bread. Sigh. My favorite part is when they make this plastic look like it's steaming. It's just like foggy plastic to be like, this was just baked right now. And it's like, no, this was actually baked like 3 weeks ago in a factory in like Connecticut.
It's even made with real butter.
Always buy Wonder Bread.
Wonder bread.
You'll be glad
No.
you did.
The reason I'm purchasing this bread is because I want to bring it with me to France, just to like have an example lesson, and I may use it as a pillow because it's literally as soft as a Nova foam pillow.
I think ask a French person to try this, they're probably gonna get a heart attack. Let's try the bread. Try
bread
Wonder
is
bread.
made with ingredients that are literally illegal in the EU.
Really,
Back to France, let's do it.
this is insane.
More American than Wonder Bread.
They're not gonna let them in.
I'm going to France.
Great boulangeries and you have your Wonder
In
bread.
case you're wondering, yes, any video from Paris must include music like this. Nice, gentle cafe accordion music. There's my composer Tom making it right now.
Pretty cool.
It's just so good. Okay, so yeah, we know that France is good at bread and the US sucks at it. Is this just another video where I shit on?
I would go further than this, and I would say half of Europe. I'm not gonna say all of Europe, but I can think of at least 5 or I don't know 6 countries in which bread is just definitely better than in the US.
On the USA for being terrible at certain things? Yes, it is. It's exactly what it is. But hear me out. I actually have something to say here. I believe that bread is a really important symbol for a bigger cultural phenomenon in the US. And that's what I want to talk about today. Where
about the French
industrialized bread
Revolution.
came from, why it exists, and how some people are trying to change it. I'll get to that explanation, but first I'm going to go into that bakery over there and buy myself a large ball of butter and flour stuffed with chocolate.
croissant.
Oh, and Tom, can you throw in a
Au
beat to this
chocolat.
accordion music, please?
Yeah.
Thanks.
And a baguette.
Questions?
Yes. Are you going to finish that croissant?
Everything looks so good.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Why bread? There's a million other things I could talk about that are better in other parts of the world, but it turns out that bread is the most important prepared food that humans have ever made, and
One of the
therefore
oldest.
it is worth talking about. So, let me explain in under a minute the overview of the tens of thousands of years of history of bread and its chemistry and why it's so important. Don't think I can do it in under a minute?
Yes.
Check this out. 12,000 years ago, humans realized that they could plant this grass instead of just foraging for it. This grass was called wheat, and when it was ground up with a stone, it made this powder that, if you put water with it, creates this stretchy, goopy thing that has a bunch of sugar from the flour that's been released. Oh look, all the bacteria in the air love this sugary goop. Nice. And they descend to feast on it, burping out gas as they eat. Whoa, the gas can't float up into the air because it's getting trapped in this stretchy ball of goop, like a balloon, like a pillow, like magic.
magic.
All this feasting and burping is making it rise and turn into a pillowy thing that is way bigger than it was. Put this blob next to some fire, and all of the little bubbles that were just created turn hard. Wait, all of this can happen because of this one grass? Yes. Cool, let's plant a lot more of this grass and build all of human civilization off of it, said humans.
All of it?
So that is bread, like the oldest and most important prepared food item that humans have ever invented. Eventually, humans got really good at doing this bread, flour, water, yeast thing, and especially here in France, they took it really seriously and have created a whole culture around making bread delicious and amazing. And you can see that they've continued that culture today just by the number of bakeries that exist in this city. There are 30,000 independent bakeries in France. Compare that to the 3,000 that are in the United States.
Yeah.
And then remember that the US has like a much larger population. And if you do all the math,
And also, I think you're thinking about chains and not actual sort of an actual bakery.
you see that France has 50 times more bakeries per capita than the United States.
Because it's
50
more
times.
important.
I mean, that is such a clear indication of
Yeah,
how much
culturally.
they value good bread that is baked a certain way.
Here with Mr. Local over here.
Local French food in France. Yes. 94% of Parisians live less than 5 minutes away from a bakery.
That's your
That
for you.
shows you they care. They care. It's like you hear stuff like that and you're like, this is their priority.
Yeah, yeah.
And the culture of eating is just as much
So
important here
flaky.
as how like the ingredients are sourced and prepared and whatnot.
Yeah.
People don't eat while rushing towards their next meeting or whatever. Like it's very much, no, you sit down, you make it a thing. It's just a part of the way of life here.
Yeah.
People come into the boulangeries almost on a daily basis and they check in with each other. It's like, hey, how you doing? You know, I'm doing great. This is what's happening.
Why?
The culture, I think, and again, in most of Europe, is sort of you go every day and you buy your fresh bread. Bread's not supposed to last for days. You have to go and buy it every day because you buy it fresh and it's good.
Why? That is the question. Why are these bread cultures so different? And the answer comes down to what America was founded on. I mean,
It's a
a
different
reminder
culture.
that America is a country founded by a bunch of people who left their country to go make a new life, to do things differently, to do things more individualistically. And the way that expressed itself for a really long time was mechanization, industrialization. And to be clear, in the history, Britain was as much to blame for all of this mechanizing of bread as America was.
That's insulting.
But anyway, we're talking about the USA for a little bit. So by the
Yeah.
1920s, you had this machine that was invented, an automatic
What is that?
bread slicer. Hello, convenience, innovation,
Better
America.
than sliced bread.
No more serrated knife versus a tough, crusty loaf. Now the machine will do it for you.
This is crazy.
This is the
how it
greatest thing
started?
since sliced bread.
This?
Oh, so that's where we're
sliced
at.
bread.
This is the greatest thing, says America. And Europe was like, wait, yeah, we like machines too, but like not for bread. Slice this bread and you make your bread spoil faster. We don't need a machine for sliced bread. But the automatic slicer was just the beginning for America.
Can't believe that was the start.
getting warmed up.
Now that we have sliced bread that, yes, spoils faster, let's make it, I don't know, not spoil as fast. One way to do this is to take the part of the wheat berry that has oils in it, the husk and the bran, and get rid of it. Focus on the big, carb-loaded berry in the middle. But there had to be a more industrial solution to make the bread last longer, to be whiter, to be softer. And it's the 1950s, and Europe is like, whoa, dude, America, chill out. Like, bread is just bread. We've been doing this for literally tens of thousands of years.
chill.
Let's just like stick to the program. And America's like, no. So America starts adding all of this stuff to their bread, bleaches and dough conditioners, and suddenly they're putting their bread into controlled chambers so that it will be hot enough to rise faster. And they're putting preservatives in so that their bread can now sit on a shelf for not just 1 or 2 days like it should, but 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, a whole
Sky's
week,
the limit.
and it's still soft. It
This
is
is the
still
limit.
white. It is still spongy and delicious. But it now has 15 ingredients instead of 3. And it's cheap and convenient and stable, and America is loving this, and Europe is like, whoa. You took this way too far. This is not bread anymore. And
Exactly.
indeed, I would argue that this
is not bread.
is not bread anymore. is a bread-like substance. It's a different product made from a different process, and yet we use the same word for it. If you want to know more about what's inside of this kind of bread, I was actually here making this video when I stumbled upon a video from one of my favorite YouTubers, Adam Ragusa. That's like a deep dive into all of the ingredients in this kind of industrial bread.
It's scary.
Check it out. Some bread in the US has taken it so far that they will put in additives that keep it spongy and soft, or that keep it really white, even though these additives are known to like cause cancer and inflame asthma and do all of these terrible things. Many of these additives that are legal to be put in American bread are literally illegal in Europe and many other countries.
That's crazy to me.
Azodicarbonamide is one of them. This is a whitening agent. But you know what? This product, ADA, also helps other things stay softer, like yoga mats.
Oh no.
ADA is in yoga mats to make them spongy and soft, and it is banned in the EU and many other countries. Our obsession with convenience, cheapness, softness, shelf life has led us down a really dangerous path, and yet we're totally okay with it somehow. This is why I think bread is a useful symbol for broader American culture. It shows us how far we are willing to go.
I thought he was going to go further and say this is the downfall of American civilization.
To prioritize things like cheapness and convenience over tried and true methods that have been baked into culture.
Of course, industrialized bread exists here as well. It doesn't have some of the carcinogenic ingredients that are not allowed in the EU, but it still has all of the dough conditioners, bleaches, still artificially risen, all of that.
And
the difference is that it is rare. It is much more rare here. What is much more common is the ability to go to your local bakery and get bread that only has a few ingredients. And it's the ingredients that humans have been using for tens of thousands of years to make this staple food.
The feeling that I generally have is that this is how it should be. And then when I go elsewhere and you have other kinds of bread that last kind of bizarre amounts of time, you know, you're like, this is not really how it should be. You get calibrated to kind of this new standard here, and it kind of ruins you.
Turns out Paris is low-key one of the most bikeable cities I've ever been in, but it used to not be like that. Like last time I was here, it was not this bikeable. I smell some urban design policy changes afoot here.
Someone tried to change this in the US a few years ago. A company called Panera.
What could be better than a visit to Panera Bread?
Tried to bring like European bread culture to the United States. And they did. They had high quality, delicious bread. But what happens next is potentially the best metaphor for America.
They switched.
I like money.
They got a business loan so they could expand, and then they got investors, and they started to expand and scale, and then they were purchased in a massive merger, and now they're planning to go public on the public stock exchanges. Like, they just became a massive corporation who does not focus on making quality artisan bread. Instead, they're now just a machine pumping out bread that kind of looks and feels like European bread, but is now done in a uniform, mass-produced, industrialized process, all in the name of scale and profit.
Wow, they have it! Canned bread!
So the question is, why does this matter? Like, am I just being a snob who's like, traditional bread is better and therefore everyone should have it and I hate America?
That was snobby. You're a snob.
No, I'm not.
Kind of, yeah. But also, it actually makes a difference in how it goes into your body. The beauty of bread always was that you could put this goop out in the air and bacteria would come down and start to feast on it and kind of start the digestion process. That is what natural fermentation does, is it starts to break down the wheat and make it ready to go into your body. The way that we make bread in America doesn't really leave time for this. We use heat and chemicals to speed this process up, to make it rise faster, to make it rise bigger in an artificial, synthetic way.
Yeah.
And so you're actually getting a much inferior product to what original bread making looks like and what it produces. Yes, it lasts longer. Yes, it tastes like chewy, pillowy, sugary heaven, but it's not bread the way that humans have been eating it for tens of thousands of years. Convenience, scale, independence, that is what we love in America. We love shelf life. We love industrialized efficiency. And to me,
artificial,
all that stuff is super great because it means we get to live these wonderful, prosperous, convenient lives. But I think we lose something really big when we focus on those as the priorities as opposed to quality and community and culture.
Yeah.
Last thing I'll say here is that this is slowly changing. You have a movement in the US of people making some of the best bread in the world using the most traditional methods and ingredients. In these big cities, you have amazing bakeries doing bread that is on par with anything you could get in Europe.
Oh, really?
And that kind of blows my mind. The problem is, and my critique is that that is still so rare and specialty and really only available to people who live in big urban areas. And meanwhile, the rest of us, the most accessible bread to us is this industrial, mass-produced garbage.
Belongs in the trash!
And that is enough to make me pretty frustrated.
It sure is. Yeah, he had a great points here. I think the thing about bread is that it's funny because how can something that is just it's just a food, right? It's not that deep. No, it kind of a little bit it is, and he made a really good point. I think you can make an analogy of how how American culture is different from the one in Europe because they just value different things in general. Great point, by the way. Absolutely. And it's not, it could be as simple, right? Oh, it's just bread, who cares? No, but yeah, he had a really good point about being industrialized and how this lies. I think it's just crazy how the beginning of this, because of course there was a point in time in which the United States, everyone was having, everyone baked their own bread because that's obviously how it used to be 200 years ago. I'm just putting a number out there. I don't know, before bakeries existed, people just baked their own breads because that's how usually, you couldn't go to a store and just buy stuff. No, you had to make your own bread, and it was just easy, as easy as things could be 100 years ago or 150 years ago. So, sure, before that time period, in the 1700s in the United States, people, I think, were making their own bread just because it was the norm. Everyone did it, around the world. However, everything changed because, yes, of course, the United States became the United States as a separate entity from the UK, from Britain, and from the English. And of course you have to develop your own identity, and that part of the whole identity was, the whole thing we already know, is very, very individualistic, and, they're all about, it's all about progress, I think, but I think not necessarily. Maybe progress is not the right word, because obviously in Europe you can find a lot of countries which of course they want to thrive, they want to be, you want to be better. I think that's not a bad thing. But it's just about the mass production of things. I think it's probably more about how, easy it is to get. It's about convenience, probably. I think that's one of the things about, in the US, everything is about convenience. Everything is about being probably, again, that's just a very valuable thing, right? People they like things, right? And I think that also comes into place, because how, the urban planning in the United States, how everything's sort of distributed, and how towns and cities are so, and I think that really, I don't know if that makes, that's an influence in this, but I would argue it probably is, maybe not, it didn't start it that way, but I think from, I don't know, the last 50 years, it's probably a thing because they're so far away from each other, everything's so incredibly far away. You don't get, you're not able to drive. I can't drive 4 hours every single day in order to get my things. I'm not going to go 4 days, I'm going to drive 3 hours to get fresh bread, 3 hours to go there and then 3 hours to return. I'm not going to do this 3 or 4 times a week. Of course not. It's not really convenient for me. It's not really feasible for my way of life. And I think that's why, of course, everything it's made on a machine, and you have to add a lot of things and chemicals in order for this to last longer, because to have a longer shelf life, because people are going to be taking this home, and maybe they're going to be the next time they go and replace that bread, it's going to be in days and weeks. It's not a thing as you're constantly sort of changing things. And, well, not changing, just buying, you're not changing the bread, but it's just, again, what I mean is you're replacing the bread that you ate, it's not something that happens every single day, because again, I can't, back in those days, it was probably, they had carriages, I think. I don't know, depending on the time period, but however it is, it's the same thing as today. You're not driving hours for this. So, I kind of get it why things are the way they are, but it's kind of funny, and that's why I find it so, he makes an excellent point about how this does really illustrate, and it is quite deep. And you might sound silly, oh, but bread is not that deep. No, it absolutely is. And I think the American type of bread, I think it's a metaphor for how life actually is in comparison to, and I'm gonna all say Europe, and I know not all Europe is the same. Obviously, it has a bunch of different countries, but in general, it's a huge difference. I think that's also one of the things that I was thinking about during the video. Is, I don't know, because I mentioned, bread as culture, as you're a bread loving culture. I think, yes, the US really does love their bread, but I think it's just different because you eat it in a sandwich, right? Oh, you're thinking it's a sandwich. It's also about convenience, right? You're having a sandwich because it's easy. You can just, grabbing some cheese, I'm grabbing some ham, I'm grabbing some peanut butter, jelly. I don't know, it's just, you can just make a sandwich and that's it, right? And your brain absolutely goes to Wonder Bread or just any type of sandwich bread, and that's it. But in Europe, when you think about a sandwich, again, I think to begin with, I don't know how it is in again, I'm not going to pick one all of Europe. Oh, yes, they all do this. But I think a lot of countries do have, and I think it's probably Mediterranean countries, it's the culture, is part of the culture as in we're having lunch and there's, we're having bread with our lunch. It's not, because again, lunch is a different sort of meal than it is in the US. And when I think about bread, I think, yes, I'm thinking about there's bread and, we are eating that with whatever we're eating, right? Whether, that's pasta or whether, I don't know, that it's whatever it is. I think it's more normal to have your little bread basket, and everyone sort of eats bread. Even a lot of people, a lot of cultures, people, whatever it is, you eat it for breakfast as well. And I'm not talking about the breakfast sandwich. No, it's not really that. I'm talking about the actual normal real bread, and you fill it with, there's some tomatoes, olive oil, some tomato paste, let's call it that. So again, it's just, and I get it's just the cultures are different, and obviously they're gonna eat different things. But I think Europe, the European culture, and again, maybe this is only in the Mediterranean, it's more normal, I think, and it's a bread loving culture, as in you're having your fresh bread. And it's the bread that you went out, it's the morning you went, you ate, you bought your bread, and this is what you're having, is fresh bread. And it comes in so many different varieties, but it's always fresh, as in it's not a sandwich, white, fluffy. No, there's so many other types of bread. There's even, and this is not even, there's rye bread and other types, just talking about wheat bread. There's so many varieties. I don't really know how they're done, but it's not just baguettes. Spain has so many different types of sandwiches, of breads. Portugal also those incredible breads. It's just so many different types of techniques that go into this. And it's just, you have a hard crust, you have a soft crust, there's soft, the soft dough, but a hard crust. There's some of them are round. And again, that's not even, Germany has so many of them as well. It's just, and there's a spelled bread because it's made out of spelled flour. They have so many different varieties. And again, it's just a different kind of thing. You eat your bread with your butter, and that's normal. In the US, I think when you picture, ask the normal sort of an average American, and they're gonna be, it's a sandwich, right? It's an open bread sandwich, and and it's, I bought it at the supermarket, and then it's, an open face sandwich, and I put cheese, I put ham, I put whatever. Then no, it's not even, and obviously the cheese don't even get me started. It's Kraft Singles, which is not even actual cheese. Which I think, obviously in Europe, there's ham and cheese as well, but they're just a different kind of thing. Obviously the ham is different, the cheese is different. And again, that goes into the whole thing. It's different because they're used to making things natural, and everything's not organic specifically, but it's just made. I don't know, it's not made. And maybe I'm exaggerating. Obviously they have their own processors and stuff, but I think it's just cheese and ham and all of those things are just done in a very different way. And you'll know because it tastes different. Anything in the US is just more plasticky, and I always make fun of this, but it tastes plasticky. I can't explain it. I can't put it into any other I can't put it into other words. It's plasticky and it's sort of a joke, but it is a little bit like that. I think once you try other things, you really do get, oh, I get what you mean. And that's not to say Europe doesn't have, obviously you can get all those sandwiches, all the type of sandwich as in the American style of bread. But again, it's just another thing. And I think it's more, again, it's convenient as well. But I think it's crazy because they taste different as well. It's less plasticky, even though they use, I think, well, apparently they don't use the same amount of chemicals. They use other types of things because some of them are banned apparently. But usually it's just different in the sense that it's less plasticky. It is less, I don't know, not savory, but it's just less sweet, I think, which is crazy because I think normally that type of bread is a little bit, it has a sweetness to it. And obviously, again, you can get all the other fresh type of breads. You can get those also as well in there's varieties that are also a little bit sweeter. But, when it comes to this specific sort of American type of bread, yes, they taste different in Europe, which is crazy, but apparently, well, I know the answer now. They use different chemicals, so yes, of course, and that's why it tastes so different. But I think ultimately, I would like, and like they mentioned, yeah, sure, you can try, and in the US, there's people that are, you can have real bread, because I think once you have real bread, you don't want to go to the other thing. Although I get sometimes every once in a while, you're going to get a craving of, again, if you're craving, a peanut butter jelly sandwich, you're gonna want you don't want your sourdough. No, you want your Wonder Bread, or similar to Wonder Bread, as in just a white fluffy sandwich. But again, it's just a very specific occasions. It's not something that you're eating. You're eating your meal. You're not eating pasta with that kind of bread. That's crazy. So again, maybe a balance would be good. Maybe have both options available to you. Ultimately, that's what the US should probably do, maybe in the future. Hopefully that becomes widespread and people are just, I know that people are, sourdough is really, it's trendy right now, and a lot of people are starting to bake their own bread. But it's more about we're going back into 200 years ago, and everyone's baking their own bread. And you're doing it, you have your own sourdough starter, and you do this at home. But ideally, you should have more bakeries. You should have your local bakery in which you go, and the bread is fresh and it's beautiful, it's delicious, the bread looks gorgeous, it's also really good. So ideally, that's what we should be sort of striving towards. Hopefully one day in the not so far away future, we'll get that. But I'm glad to report. Yeah, I think these days baking sourdough bread is really trendy. So people we'll catch on when people are starting. I think I'm gonna open a bakery. I'm gonna open my own bakery with sourdoughs and all types of bread, as in if you were in Europe. But I think it's really important. Like he said, it's not just urban areas. It's also important to bring this into more rural areas, because probably those people are unaware that there exists a whole world out there with this delicious bread, and you have no idea, which is sad, because everyone should have really good bread at least once in their lives. Ideally every day, or at least a couple of times a week. But yeah, at least one day in your life, you should be able to have really good bread. But that was it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye!